Good day and welcome to my channel. My name is Rikus. In this video, I'm going to share with you quite a number of tips, highlights and useful information for this incredible, really never to be forgotten hike from Lukla to Everest Base Camp in Nepal. I believe this will give you a very good idea of what you can expect from the terrain, the villages, the fast changing weather and the overall beauty of this world famous hike that will be for many, like for myself, the pinnacle of their hiking career. So let us go straight into the video that we made of our tour, and please remember to click subscribe. My niece and I flew to Kathmandu via Dubai, and be prepared for possible delays either going to or from Kathmandu, and listening to others, this happens quite regularly. We actually explored Kathmandu after the hike, and we thought it worked out really well to just relax and soak up the atmosphere of this famous city and its markets. And the advantage of doing this, should your return flight from Lukla be delayed due to weather or whatever reason, you will not miss your homebound flight. We stayed for 2 nights prior and 3 more nights after our hike in Kathmandu. I would not recommend you to buy essential hiking gear like boots and outer shells in the markets, as most of the gear they sell are copies and you just don't know if it might come apart during the hike. However, prior to my return home, I bought a bagload of very cheap and great pieces of garments like puffer jackets, hiking pants, shirts, etc. I'm not sure when they will start flying again from Kathmandu to Lukla, but we had to travel in a minivan with some 10 people from Kathmandu to the tiny airport called Namche in the middle of nowhere. This is a very windy route, so I will strongly recommend you to take car sickness or nausea tablets for this drive. The flight itself was quick and only lasted some 20 minutes. And it wasn't too bumpy for us. When you get into the plane, try to sit on the left side, as you will have most of the Himalaya mountain ranges on that side during the flight. We did not overnight at Lukla upon landing there, but continued downhill to about 2,300 meters above sea level, which is about 7,500 feet, to a village called Pakding, where we stayed the first night. Our package included all meals, and although these meals are filling, do not expect gourmet food. In addition, you will not find a lot of fresh vegetables on the hike, but mainly dishes like pastas, burgers, chips, omelets, etc. We did not eat any meat items after Namche, as we were told that the meat has to be carried from Lukla along the trail, so one could not be 100% sure whether the meat did not go off along the way. Remember, there are no roads after Lukla, only a hiking path and helicopters, so everything must be carried on somebody's back or in a helicopter. Our tour operator, however, was absolutely fantastic, as he sent apples and pomegranates along with a porter, so we had fresh fruit every night, whilst all the other people looked at us in awe. The reason why we picked April was due to the fact that it was springtime and we saw plenty of blossoms everywhere in the lower regions, and the trees were beautifully green. The other reason for choosing this period was that there are lots of activities going on at base camp, people getting ready for their hike to the top of the mountain. From July until beginning of March, no one occupies base camp and it's completely empty and barren. Our hike was 11 days in total, which included 2 different locations on the trail, where we stayed for 2 nights at each location to acclimatize: Namche and Ding Boche. Namche is your last big town with most modern conveniences. Here you can visit Hillary and Tenzing Norgay Museum, as well as a hike to the Mount Everest View Hotel for your very first glimpse of Mount Everest. From Namche onwards, the vegetation will become less, the villages smaller, and the scenery even more dramatic. Although we had a porter, it is vital that you pack in your day bag everything you possibly might need for the day, including rain gear, as the weather can change quite quickly. And your porter is often way ahead of you. The hike to Temboche was probably the most strenuous, as you have to go up and up and up, and it never seemed as if you get there. And in the rain and snow, it was even tougher. However, it was all worth it. Temboche sits on this mountain ridge, and after visiting a pretty little monastery, we walked to the helipad, and there we witnessed a dramatic change of weather where the clouds lifted within minutes, and we had this perfect clear 360-degree view of the surrounding landscapes, including Mount Everest. And this was just one of many dramatic moments which all became part of a collage of unforgettable memories. You can expect to find pretty impressive coffee shops and with really good cakes and coffee. Breakfast and dinner you will enjoy at your accommodation, but lunch will be at one of the many tea houses along the way. I loved Dingboche because from here we went to a little village for the day called Chukung, which is on the foot of one of the most beautiful mountains on the trail, and my personal favorite called Amadablam. The other reason why I enjoyed staying 2 nights in Dingboche was we encountered no more than 20 other hikers the entire day to Chukung, and for the first time we felt as if we were the only people in the Himalayas. The rest of the hike, it was pretty busy, but really not in a terrible way. Toilet facilities. Up to Dingboche, you can still expect Western toilets, but from the last night prior to getting to base camp, you'll only have squat toilets in the towns of Lukla and Gorakshep. And when I say towns, villages is probably more correct. In regards to food, take your favorite snacks with you from home. Forget about those seed snack bars, and of course, unless you like them a lot. In my opinion, they are popular amongst canaries, budgies and finches, but not me personally. Take something you will crave, like Snickers or Mars bars. That will be a real treat during the day to spoil yourself for getting to the top of yet another ridge. The accommodation on the trail can be very basic and cold, very cold. Should you wish to stay in more luxurious hotels, and there are some lower down the trail, it will set you back a few $100s per person per night. The rest of the hotels are all much of a muchness. The walls are paper thin, the rooms very basic with just beds, little to no insulation, so be prepared for some very, very cold nights. You will often have to pay for a hot shower, but it's definitely worth it. Some accommodation will only provide you with a bucket of warm water, and that's fine too. So from Lukla, the last night prior to arrival at base camp, you will walk to the last village called Gorakshep. There are only a handful of buildings in this village. Here you will leave most of your gear and you just take the bare necessities, and you will continue for another about 2 hours to base camp. We stayed for about 1 hour at base camp before heading back to Gorakshep for the night. My wonderful niece was fantastic to bring along our favorite drink called Amarula in one of those little airplane-sized bottles, and it was wonderful to celebrate our achievement at base camp with a drink. Prior to our arrival to base camp, we were under the impression it's not possible to see the tip of Mount Everest from base camp, so we were set on climbing Kalapata the morning after Gorakshep. However, as this is indeed possible to see Mount Everest on the way to base camp and at base camp, we saved our energies for the return journey and did not hike to Kalapata that morning, although some people say sunrise there is pretty dramatic. From Gorakshep, we slept one more night in a village on the way down and the last night in Lukla before we flew down again to the airstrip in Ramachep, and from there the same 5-hour drive back to Kathmandu. Well, I hope that gave you a good overall impression of what you can expect on the trail. You know, it is really hard to explain in words what this experience means, and I hope the video helped you a little bit. But I always say, and maybe it's a cliche, but it is part of life's many wonderful memories that one can relive over and over and over in years to come. Even the tough parts, beat sitting at home watching some terrible TV commercials, of course. So in the second video, and I will leave a link below, I will talk more about the technical side of the hike, like what kind of equipment, hiking gear that you will need along the way, your fitness levels, and of course altitude sickness. Should you use a company to do it, or can you do the hike by yourself? Cost, money, electricity, communications with people back home, etc. I will also include a Google Earth video of the actual day-by-day map to give you an indication of the terrain. Now, over to you. If you have any specific questions in regards to your planned hike to base camp, let me know below in the comments. Or if you did the hike already, please share below your best tips for future hikers. Or even better, tell me where you think I should go next, whether it's a hike or just a great destination. If you like this video, please click on the subscribe button below, and I do hope you got a positive overall impression of what you can expect on this spectacular hike. I look forward to see you again soon.